Hey everyone, welcome to the June Get It Done week, and I'm here to walk you through some of the technical bits that you need to know for Pinterest. Some of you might already be familiar with it, and if so, that is great. If you are not very sure or if you're kind of stuck on something, I will share the basics in these videos, but feel free to just ask questions either in the Facebook group or in a direct email to me, and I'll help you figure that out. Now, I must say that I have been using Pinterest for my business for a very long time. I think as long as I've been selling digital products from my website. But having said that, I'm not an expert on this. I don't really track my numbers or my data or what's happening and any of that. I definitely don't track it for Etsy, but I have noticed over the years that every so often there's one order that comes into Shopify, which is just somebody buying a product at full price. And that usually comes from Pinterest. It's someone who's seen my pin on Pinterest and just decided to click the link, check it out, and purchased it. So it's a good, nice conversion ratio for something that doesn't take as much effort to keep doing consistently, right? So I think that is the uh, task that we are going to complete this week. Essentially, setting up your system with your Pinterest account, your pin templates in your branding, and completely set up for you so that as you create new products and whenever you have the bandwidth to do it for old products as well, you can simply create and schedule a bunch of pins, and you can let those kind of bring traffic back to your products. And unlike Facebook or Instagram or most other social media channels, Pinterest just kind of sits there. It's a long game. Kind of your pins are just getting sitting there, getting found by customers whenever they search for keywords that you have used. And so it just works for you, you know for months or even years after you've posted it. So let me just quickly show you what my Pinterest account looks like. This is the main Pinterest account that I have. This is the one for Snazzy Designs. And I have one that's my personal account, so I don't really use that much. And there's data analytics. Okay. So WooCommerce has failed because I've stopped linking into WooCommerce. And because I don't advertise in Pinterest, a lot of this doesn't really show up, but it does have some data that comes up here. Even here it's like 4.9k impressions, just organic. I don't use Pinterest ads. I have considered it. I don't really use it very much. Engagement saves, etc. So you can see that 34 people saved at least one pin of mine. 4 pins of mine were saved in the last 30 days, right? Which is quite neat, as in people are looking at these pins. And I create pins for my products on Shopify and previously on WooCommerce, as well as for my products on Thrivecart. So those are mostly, there's Tuesday Trends membership. There is some of my mockups, some of the gems. So products that are more about seller resources and not PLR templates. Those go on Thrivecart. So I create links to those, and I create links to my blog posts on my WordPress site. All of it using the same Pinterest account, right? Everything goes to the Snazzy Designs Pinterest account. So you can do this if you have multiple businesses, but everything under the same banner and speaking to the same audience, you can certainly use one Pinterest account for everything. But if you have different audiences, if you have different types of products, say if you have digital and physical products, or if you have coaching and let's say POD, I'm just making this up. But if you have these completely different businesses, it's worth considering having different Pinterest accounts. And it's not very complicated to set them up anyway. So what happens when you have the business hub? So you can create these paid pins, idea pins, and collages and all of that. Or you can create all of these organic pins, which is partly one of the things that we'll be using. Or you can create campaigns and all of that. What I often come to check is these three. So there's the analytics overview, which I can do it by all of these different date ranges, different content types, which is organic, is mostly all the pins that it's literally all the pins that I have set up. If I had Pinterest ads, it would show paid pins as well. And it has all of the overall performance. Uh, Conversion, of course, it doesn't have it here because um, it's not uh, showing me the Shopify ones, but it does here. It has been disconnected from WooCommerce, so that's something I need to check. Performance over time, so it shows the impressions. It shows how many people have seen my pins every single day, and you can also split it by content type, by claimed accounts, by device source. Let's see what source comes here. So the source is my pins versus pins that I have pinned from, versus times when my pins were on the screen when someone else's pins were being shown, right? Age, gender, so it's pretty neat. You can look at all of the different impressions and also engagements, pin clicks, so how many people actually clicked on the pin and looked at it. Outbound clicks, again looking at how many people clicked on the link in your pin. So I had 5 people clicking on a link in one of my pins on May 26th. June 3rd, there were 3 pins that led people back to one of my products or to my website. And this is traffic that, didn't take a lot of effort to create, right? So more traffic, more sales, right? So you can look at all of these. You can look at outbound click rate, not just the numbers, but also the rate. And you can see it's kind of, okay, this is 30 days. It's not easy to see, but let's say last 90 days, there's still some spikes and some days when it's, not when it's completely zero. So it's worth looking at all of these numbers to understand what's going on with your pins. And you can do that when you have enough number of pins. And so pins sorted by engagements. And it's very interesting. Pretty much all of these are going to my blog posts. There's very few that's going directly to my products, but most of the pins that received engagement were the Tuesday Trends blog posts. This one had 199 engagements between March to June. Very interesting. The open win cards, I think this is one of the rare, and Mother's Day brunch. I think these are some of the very, very rare direct product links that got engagement. Most of it is, blog posts that I can see here. And the boards that I have, so I have a number of different boards that I've created. And, these are some of the top ones that got the most number of clicks. And you can also see the number of impressions. You can see the number of pins for each board. Yeah. So Etsy Business has 1,500 pins. Wow, that's a lot. PLR for bloggers has only 92, so I could probably start adding more pins here. Canva mockup templates, I could start adding more pins here. So products, minimalist planners, products I tagged. I think this was a WooCommerce automatic thing. Uh, but yes, you can look at which ones you have, and you can kind of understand your pin data. And then there's audience insights. So again, you can look at your own audience and what else that audience is interested in. So my audience is interested in event planning, DIY and crafts, health, design and education, home decor, etc., art, entertainment. You can see that it's also showing by the affinity, that is how closely these audiences are matched. And finance is top of the list, so that's quite interesting. Financial planning, real estate, those are quite high in their interests. Let's look at something like event planning. There's holiday gifts, personal celebration, hosting occasions, school celebrations. So again, a lot of different interests that people have that are also in my audience. And so these might be product ideas, these might be topic ideas that I could cover in my content, right? Home decor, that's another interesting one. There's just so much. There's room decor, there's wall storage and organization, home accessories, etc. And you can even dig further into it and you can see more of what that looks like, right? So these are some of the things that my audience is also interested in. Age distribution, gender distribution, so that helps. what devices are they looking at, and the countries. So, and that's my audience, but you can also look at the total Pinterest audience and you can see, the kind of users that you can find on Pinterest, and you can try and see if, how much do they align with your audience, and what is the messaging that you want to use when you're in Pinterest, right? And there's also a comparison kind of thing, so it's quite interesting. I'm sorry, I lost my voice for a minute, but you can see that finance is only 5% of Pinterest audience, but 28% of my audience is interested in finance, right? So that's an interesting concept again. So the idea of making money online, the idea of selling digital products, it does very well, align with the kind of content and the kind of products that I create. Similarly, for gender, um, age, 30% of Pinterest audience is 18 to 24, but only 17% of people who saw my pins and who interacted with my pins falls in that age range. More of the 25 to 34, 35 to 44 folks who are interested. So it's still a younger audience, but it speaks to people who are at a certain stage in their life, who are looking at weddings, who are looking at their new careers, new jobs, planning for their lives, planning for their finances, etc. Their first home, perhaps. So it gives me a picture of my audience, right? And yes, you can kind of export this as CSV, create campaigns and all of that to kind of analyze the data. And very quickly, just looking at Pinterest trends. So you can look at, you can filter by interests. So let's say I'm going to go back to finance. Is finance here? Okay, that's not showing up, but we leave education here. So this is one of the, these are some of the ones that are showing up. Turtle crafts for kids, classroom whiteboard ideas, human body systems, world geography, classroom rules and expectations. So you can kind of create resources. And I'm thinking some of my classroom decor products, the desk tags that I just released, the classroom bulletin boards that are kind of going to become more popular, back to school products that are becoming popular. Those would fit into some of these trends, right? And similarly, turtle crafts for kids that looks so cute. So I could use turtle clip art, I could use turtle icons and images to kind of make my products more appealing to kids. You could create content around human body systems or world geography. Um, there's just so much flags and all of that. There's just so much products you could create around these ideas. Shopping trends, search trends, not spending too much time on all of these, but June whiteboard ideas, that's probably classrooms and teachers looking at it, looking for ideas that they can put up on their whiteboards or in their classrooms. And as you can see, that's growing now. So these are the growing trends, seasonal trends. So look at what's coming up in the last few days. So again, June whiteboard, Memorial Day graphics, CNA week. That's a really good idea that for products for appreciation cards and certificates, high school graduation codes, summer activities, etc. Top monthly and yearly trends. And as you look at these ideas, so much of these can be converted into digital products, right? They're also giving you trend predictions. So let's look at one of these. I haven't seen this before. Um, but yes, graduation pictures, so it's expecting to be kind of slowing down after June, which is no surprise. Let's see if it can give us another region. Stays a bit more consistent in Great Britain and Ireland, where you're looking at July as the peak from last year. So kind of interesting to see how this is coming up, right? Okay. So yes, I did spend a lot more time on this, but Pinterest is, a really good source for product ideas, for content ideas, for things you can create. Yeah. And even just spending a bit of time on the Pinterest trends page can give you so much to work with. So there's a lake house aesthetic, there's a sailor core, there's Greek Isle, and then when you combine it with the turtle, it's still showing me Great Britain, but let's say turtle crafts, yes. So when you combine the turtle crafts with all of these ideas, there's so much so many products you could create, so much clip art you could create around these. You could use these for your color schemes and color palettes in your products. So, just kind of be aware that Pinterest is not just for putting your pins out there, but also for product and content ideas. So I'm going to stop for now. In the next video, which should be much shorter, I will show you how to set up your business Pinterest account, and then we'll get into the actual get it done week tasks each day. Bye for now.